Welcome to Lesson 5. After completing this lesson, you'll be able to explain how you can use a fluency strategy in classroom instruction. We're going to look at some strategies teachers can use to help build reading fluency, particularly connected text fluency, in students. But first, let's look at a practice called round-robin reading that is highly discouraged by reading experts. According to Optis and Rosinski, round-robin reading, the practice of calling on one student at a time to read aloud while the rest sit, listen, and follow along, can have a negative impact on students. It presents an inaccurate view of reading, in that few circumstances in life call on one person to read and the rest to follow along. Students in a classroom generally have diverse reading styles and read text at different levels of difficulty. When asked to follow along with a single reader who may or may not be proficient, the reading modeled for them may be inaccurate or lack fluency and prosody. Other students may develop these poor habits as well. Students who are required to sit quietly and follow along silently often don't. Faster readers move on ahead, slower readers lag behind, and both are frustrated by the lack of interest the reading holds. For some children, having to read aloud with others listening can be a source of anxiety and embarrassment. Finally, round-robin reading is time-consuming. Time is a precious commodity in today's classroom, one which needs to be used wisely. Research shows that there are other ways to promote fluency and comprehension through oral reading in the classroom. All of these reasons serve to lead students to a less than favorable view of reading. The less students enjoy reading, the less they read, and the less proficient they become. The National Reading Panel also states, "It is evident that with round-robin procedure, students receive little actual practice in reading because no child is allowed to read for very long." There are a number of more effective strategies teachers can use to help build oral reading fluency in students. In this lesson, we are going to examine 4: modeling fluent reading, providing support and scaffolds, ensuring multiple opportunities for practice, and phrasing. One of the most enjoyable and effective ways of promoting fluency is to effectively model fluent reading. This can be done during the reading block, using literature from the student anthology, during math, science, social studies, and other core subject areas related to the day's objectives. Students of all ages enjoy listening to books being read aloud, provided the reader uses appropriate pace and prosody. In order to model fluent reading, the teacher needs to read with expression and enthusiasm, draw the students into the story through the use of inflection, voice, and even emotion. As teachers model fluent reading, teachers may also want to use non-examples of fluent reading. By being specific in the explanation of these non-examples and comparing and contrasting them with examples of fluent reading, the teacher can help students gain a better understanding of what is expected of a fluent reader. Some non-examples of fluency commonly heard and seen in classrooms are robot reading, race car reading, stop and go reading, and slow and steady reading. Robot reading is reading in a monotone, flat voice void of expression. Race car reading usually springs from a misunderstanding of the true meaning of fluency. These students attempt to read as quickly as possible without paying attention to prosody or comprehension. Stop and go reading often reflects a student's inability to decode words accurately, especially multisyllabic words and sometimes high-frequency words as well. These students pause at a word they are not able to easily read, waiting for someone to give them the word, rather than using strategies to attempt to decode it. In slow and steady reading, it is characterized by a lack of appropriate pace and prosody. Now that we've discussed effective modeling of fluent reading, let's now consider how we can provide oral support of student reading through structured oral reading practice. There are 3 ways teachers can accomplish this: echo, choral, and paired reading. The first type of oral reading we're going to discuss is echo reading. It provides a high level of teacher support, so it can be used with stories that are more difficult for students. It may be a good routine to develop for initial readings of stories, since many students need additional teacher support. In echo reading, the teacher reads one sentence at a time, modeling appropriate phrasing, intonation, and expression. The teacher also gives students a signal to begin, and students read the same phrase chorally. The teacher also provides corrective feedback. The second type of reading we'll be discussing is choral reading. It's less supportive than echo reading, so we might use it on a story that is on many students' instructional level, or when we're reading a challenging story for the second or third time. In choral reading, the following is recommended. When the teacher gives students a signal to begin, students and teacher read a passage together orally. As students read with more confidence, the teacher should decrease the volume of her voice so that students rely less on her model. The teacher's voice becomes a quiet safety net. She can increase the volume of her voice during more challenging parts of the text. During choral reading, the teacher also provides corrective feedback as necessary. The last type of structured oral reading we will discuss is paired or buddy reading. It is the least supportive of the types we've discussed, so it should be used when a passage is on students' independent or instructional level. In this strategy, pairing students strategically is essential to effective paired reading. Students who have drastically different reading levels should not be paired together, nor should students who have difficulty getting along with one another. Before any paired reading is undertaken, it should be modeled. In this strategy, students take turns reading portions of the text, with the listener supporting and providing guidance as needed. During paired reading, it is recommended that the teacher not be a reading partner so that he or she is able to monitor and observe all the readers. The teacher also provides feedback as needed. In addition to using echo reading, choral reading, and paired reading as repeated reading, some other effective practices include whisper reading, reader's theater, reading familiar song lyrics, radio reading, and mentor big buddy reading, to name a few. Whisper reading involves training the students to read independently using a very quiet whisper voice. This technique allows students to practice oral reading fluency without disturbing others around. Radio reading allows students to have the opportunity to listen to some old radio programs, such as The Shadow and The Lone Ranger. After listening to several stories over a period of several days or weeks, provide student groups with a script and allow them to create their own radio program, complete with sound effects. The students should practice the script several times, providing the opportunity for repeated reading to improve fluency. Then, the students record their performance, and it's played back to the class. Another strategy to help build fluency is fluency through phrasing. In previous lessons, we discussed that incorrect phrasing can alter the meaning of a sentence and negatively impact students' comprehension. Here's an example that helps explain the importance of phrasing in relation to comprehension. A woman without her man is nothing. Now let's consider the same words with a slight variation in phrasing. A woman without her man is nothing. Even before students are able to read kinetic text, it is possible to begin teaching them to pay attention to punctuation. One simple and fun activity is to use letters of the alphabet to create sentences with punctuation. Teachers can also use phrase cueing text by marking phrase boundaries to give students added support in reading prosodically. Single slashes can be used to indicate boundaries within a sentence, which are usually short pauses, and double slashes can be used for boundaries at the end of a sentence, indicating a longer pause. By equipping our students with not only the ability to read, but the ability to read fluently with accuracy, prosody, and automaticity, we can enable our students to discover the pleasure and joy of reading, and it can become not only something to be done during the school years, but throughout all of life.